and casuals of YouTube. Welcome to Brooks's Bass Corner. This is my second live chat. We did one a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, before Christmas. And I said, when we hit 1,000 subscribers, we'll do a second chat. And I thought that was going to be in the spring. And you've all totally flabbergasted me. And we're currently sitting at 1.34 thousand subscribers. So within the space of 3 weeks, you've allowed me to hit over 1,000. So thank you very much to everyone who's been hitting that subscribe button over the Christmas holidays and New Year. Very much appreciated. Thank you very much to my friends on Facebook who rallied to my call of arms just leading up to Christmas. So thank you to everyone who's helped. You know, without you guys, this gets very lonely. So the way we're going to run tonight's chat is I'll run through a few points for anyone who's not watched the last one, and then I will open it up to you guys. Any questions you've got, anything you want to ask, we can talk about the YouTube channel, bass magazines that I write for, anything to do with basses, gear, effects, amplifiers, anything gear based that you want to know. If I know the answer, I'm more than happy to impart my knowledge. Bands I've worked with and things I've done in my career, how to make a living as a musician, any questions regarding interviews I've done, whether they're for magazines or for other media. And if you want to talk about any of my favorite bands, so we're looking at Queen, Duran Duran, Toto, Level 42, Prince, Earth, Wind and Fire, Chic, and 100 other bands. So if you want to ask any questions, that feel free. You know, that's what I'm here for. The way this works is basically I've got a window here on my PC. So I'm talking to you on this camera, and I have a window on my monitor. And basically you ask your questions, I can see as you log in, and that's it. And so I can say hello and reply to your questions. So I am just going to quickly check so I can see all live messages. I'm just checking that's all working. Just bear with me a moment, guys. And I need to just check that too. That's all running. Cool. Okay. I think everything's there. And just bear with me a moment. Can you? Okay. We've got some housekeeping to do, and so. When we did the last live chat 3 weeks ago, I just started a competition to win a Trace Elliott Elf 1x10 combo. And that competition was supposed to end on Friday. But because we'd had such a huge response and entries were still coming in quite rampantly, PV UK decided to extend the competition. So instead of it ending on Thursday night, it's now ending on tonight at 23:59 UK time. So if you still want to enter, if you go to there's a video on this channel which is called Win a Trace Elliott Elf Combo, and the competition is there. I will put a link to it in the description for viewers up until 23:59. So in just under 5 hours you will be able to enter. If you're watching this on Monday or after Sunday the 10th, you can't enter. It's closed. So you've basically got just under 5 hours to enter that. So we thought the competition was going to be over. It's not. It runs till the end of tonight. So the winner of the competition will be announced tomorrow morning, Monday morning, and I will announce it across the various social media platforms. I will also put a message here on YouTube as well. So yeah, that's the way we're going to work with that. I am wondering if I've got a little something going on here, because I'm running it's that pop-out chat. Do I want that? I might do. At the moment I can't see people who are logging on. I can see a question, but I can't see who's logging on. So at the moment I think I've only got one person watching, or not. Just bear with me. Let me see if I can. Here we go. Okay, I'm getting the messages, but I'm not necessarily seeing who's there. Here we go. Maybe that'll tell me. There's 5 of you there, and I can't see who you are, which is delightful. Here we go. That's what I want. Now they're popping up, aren't they? We do need to do a slight roll call. You're right. So I've got Stacey from North Carolina here. Welcome, young lady. Martin Richardson, good to see you, sir. Pleasure. So I've got like 20 things all going on at once here. So the competition ends tonight. Winner will be announced tomorrow on social media. I'll put a message here on the YouTube channel as well. Keep entering. You've got to be in it to win it. And it's so simple to win. All you have to do is there's a link underneath the competition video in the description box. Click on that link. There are literally 6 tasks that you need to perform across social media platforms. Once you've performed those 6 tasks, you acquire credits for performing each one. And once you've got all the credits, you will be in the competition into the draw to win it. So good luck to everyone who has entered already. And, you know, best of luck. It is there for the winning, and it's a fabulous combo. Some great tones. I've heard a few people sort of grumble at the price. You've got to remember, the price that's advertised as an RRP isn't necessarily the price that you're going to see in the shops or online. So certainly shop around and look for some deals, because they're certainly out there. I had a quick look earlier on, and I've seen some very competitive pricing. So when you see my review, or if you go searching and you see an RRP for the Trace Elliott 1x10 ELF combo, that isn't necessarily the price that it's going to be in the shops. So, you know, shop around. Deals are certainly out there. Let's think, what else we've got housekeeping to do. So I took a little bit of a holiday over Christmas. A few Essential Bass album reviews were put up. Also put an interview with Bagiti Kamalo, who is Paul Simon's bass player. And he is the guy responsible for You Can Call Me Al. And he played on 5 of the tracks on the Graceland album. And I was very fortunate to do an interview with him back in November 2016, when he was performing at the Royal Albert Hall with Paul Simon, which was actually part of a 30th celebration of Graceland being released. So I hope you enjoy that. That interview's on there and it's up and running now. And let's have a think. What else have we got coming up shortly? I have an interview with Chris Childs. Back on the last chat, Saul Watson asked if I had an interview with Chris. Well, I've got the audio of a magazine interview I did with Chris back in 2016. I've now done an up-to-date interview, and we did that a couple of nights ago. I'm going to be editing that up over the next few days, and then that will go off to Chris, and I'll wait for him to give me a thumbs up and say, yeah, I'm happy with that. And then it will be uploaded for you all to have a listen and enjoy. And it's a video interview as well. It's not just an audio. So you'll be able to see the great Chris Childs in the flesh. And he was in fine form, got lots to say, lots going on. And obviously Thunder have a new album coming out in March. So he had a lot to say about that. And yeah, very informative. Let's have a look. What else have we got here? I've got some older vintage interviews still to go up. Got some workshop videos in the pipeline, things that I need to sort of crack on with, really. So when the weather gets a little warmer, I'll be going back into the garage, and those will get uploaded shortly. And I have an absolute swathe of bass reviews, pedal reviews, amp reviews to come out, to upload. They were kind of put on the back burner while I got the Essential Bass Albums series up and running, which it now is. So it's been a while since I've done some bass reviews. They're done, they're filmed. I've just got to edit them up and upload them for you guys to watch. So those will be coming along, I would imagine, sometime this week. I'll start putting some of those up. I've probably got enough to take me through till end of February easily. So keep your eyes peeled, and those will be coming along shortly. Right, let's see who else we've got here. James Randall, good evening, sir. Paul John Purnell, hello, welcome. I've got a few questions, so let's have a little look here, see what people have said. Right, from Stacy in North Carolina. Just watched the Duran Duran 5 years tribute to Bowie and wondered if you had the 411, I presume that's 411 on JT's bass. Hammersmith, I think I saw. Yeah, it's a jazz copy, but it's a custom built affair. I don't know the full ins and outs of it, and I know some people who do. So I will check that out and come back to you. But it's jazz inspired, but it looks like they've got not standard single coils, but it looks like they might be split coils on there, as in you can split two coils into two singles. But I'll check that out a bit later and get a bit more of the lowdown. I've been very busy lining up this chat and doing some other things for the channel, so I haven't even watched the footage yet. I just haven't had time. I will get around to that the next couple of days. Let's have a look what else we got here. Martin, we've done that. Paul, yes, we can see you, sir. Can't wait to see the Chris Childs interview. Very good. Hope you enjoy that. Let's have a look. Hi, James Randall, I can see you. Thumbs up and that. And that's the questions. That's what we've got at the moment. Let me think, what else can I tell you? What have we got coming up? I'm hoping that once we kind of get out of spring, or sort of further into spring, and hopefully when the lockdown eases, I, in my head, have got that I'm going to be out gigging outdoors probably from April. And once that can start, I can start doing live videos and stuff from gigs, sound checks, prepping for gigs. Obviously I won't be having live audio because a lot of the songs I play with various bands are covers, so there's going to be copyright on those. But I want to do some show, in inverted commas, show videos for you, to show maybe beginners and intermediate players who maybe haven't done gigs before, kind of what's involved on a gig day. So from the point of sort of getting yourself ready, leaving home, traveling, sitting around for 5 hours. The catchphrase in the industry is hurry up and wait. Well, I've done 25.5 years doing this. I've probably spent 23 years waiting and about 2.5 years playing. But yeah. So once we can get out gigging, that's something I want to bring onto the channel, is gig days, what's involved. And you know, it's even after nearly 26 years of doing this full time, things still surprise me. People's behavior, equipment going wrong, just a whole myriad of things I could go into, but I won't at the moment. So, but yeah, hopefully once we're out gigging, that will be something that gets added to the channel. No idea when we're going to start doing indoor gigs. I think if the vaccines all start kicking in properly, you may be looking at late summer. Just not sure how it's all going to pan out. I mean, you've got Queen is supposed to be, well, their whole tour from last year is rescheduled for this summer, starting at the end of May into June, and I'm just not sure if that's going to happen. It might, but I mean, who wants to be in an arena with 16,000 people in at the moment? I just I can't see that happening. But hey, Jason Rice, hi, how are you? You messaged me earlier. You found the link. Here we go. Martin Richardson, live videos from gigs backstage would be awesome. Yeah, I think so too. I always like watching, you know, guys that play with name bands and name artists, and they, you know, a day in the life. I think you learn so much watching people. Everyone does things differently anyway. I've got my way of doing things, and people sometimes look at me and go, why are you doing that? And it's just things that you kind of prep for or you've experienced in the past, and having a spare set of bass strings to hand, because you never know when a string's going to go and you might have to put it on literally with 20 seconds. So, but that's just me. That sounds really good. Cool. Let's have a look. Okay. Oh, they're flooding in now. Here we go. It's going to be a torrent. My ideal bass effect setup. Do you know what? I've probably got about 40 pedals here. And the bulk of the gigs I do, I rarely ever use pedals. I've always got an octave bass or an octave pedal in my gig case. Always got a chorus pedal. I've started carrying a fuzz pedal, but generally a lot of the gigs I've done just have never really needed effects. But those are kind of the go-tos that I would always carry, and maybe a preamp pedal, something like an EBS micro bass or an Aguilar an Aguilar tone hammer pedal. So I've always got those like as an emergency thing, or if I've got to send separate tone to a desk and in case a DI goes wrong on an amp. But I tend not to use a whole lot, but when I have done, it's been for a specific sound that I've got to have, or it might be a tribute to a band or an artist, and you've got to get the sounds that are on the record. And invariably, if they've got filters or octave effects or chorus, or it might be like a couple of different tones, specific tones, like you might need a serious treble boost, then I've got them. They're here in a tub that you can't see to the side of this camera. So I can always pick and choose. So I've got the weapons here if I need them. But generally, if I've got an octave pedal, that'll cover quite a lot of ground. Chorus pedal, although you don't get too many requests for that, unless you're in an 80s band. And that always helps with slapping. It can, if certain Mark King sounds, because he always used to use a Yamaha delay, and it would give his, back in the 80s, his JD and his Status is a bit of a chorus effect sound. So that always helps. But if you've got them in the gig bag or the gig case, then they're there, aren't they? But we can come back to the effects question. So if you want to reply to my reply, feel free. Let's have a look. What else we got here? Stacey, how long does it take to put your vids together? Your Essential Bass Albums videos, for example. Well, the Essential Bass Album videos are quite quick. And that was kind of why I started doing a lot of them in the run up to Christmas, because I already had a lot of bass reviews up and quite a few pedal reviews, and the pedals weren't getting a whole lot of views compared to the basses. So I wanted to get the Essential Bass Albums thing up and running. And as I said in the last live chat, I've used the scripts, or basically my text, from the classic bass album series that ran in Bass Guitar magazine between 2016 and 2018. So I already had the text there, but they all needed tweaking because they were written years ago and obviously would come up to date. So the scripts were there, and actually producing those videos is quite quick once you decide on the format. All the videos I do on the channel, in my head, I've got an idea of how they're going to look and what the format's going to be. But until you film it and then start piecing it together in the editing software, all sorts of things can change. So until I've got it and it's rendered and I'm seeing how it looks, nothing is ever nailed down. So I can always change things and tweak things. But to put that together, well, I haven't had to write one from scratch because I've already had the scripts already. But I think once you start and do the research, I used to write a column in about, I think about 2.5 to 3 hours. So you've got to do all the research and stuff and get all the figures. And if it's an album, I'm not essentially familiar with every track down to like the fine nuances. I've got to listen and refamiliarize myself with it. But So we say 3 hours for research. Let's have a think. Probably about 20 minutes to film it, and then you're looking at about an hour and a half to edit. So around about 5 or 6 hours, I think. Base videos take a lot longer. My first base review, the Status Graphite Empathy, that was my first video. I was still trying to get my head around the software. That took nearly 24 hours of work. And once you realize all the little tricks and how you can do certain things and save yourself some time, you know, I can get that down to, well, the filming's probably an hour and a quarter to an hour and 3/4, checking the audio's right, to we're probably looking at about 7 or 8 hours for a base review video. Pedals are a bit quicker, probably about 4 or 5 hours. But it's the editing that takes the time. You know, I can write reviews for magazines and that's quite quick, and I can normally sort of make myself familiar with a bass or an effect pedal quite quickly. Then I write my notes, then write a review, and that would normally take me 3, 4, 5 hours depending on certain items. But the filming, the editing, the production is what takes the time. So, you know, I haven't done a bass review video for a number of weeks. This week I will start editing up the footage I've got of stuff I did, you know, 6 to 8 weeks ago, and those will start coming out. But in the build up to Christmas, I wanted to get that bass album series up and running. So thankfully, you know, there's 13 episodes of that there. So, you know, trying to give your channel some diversity rather than just one thing. And I think, I'm hoping in the long run, that's what will appeal to you guys out there in YouTube land. Let's have a look. What else we got here? Right, that sounds good. Yeah. Is the Duran Duran Bowie tribute available on YouTube? I'm not sure. It was a ticket only affair, and they delayed it by 24 hours because of the virus. Something happened. I'm not sure if it is on YouTube. I'm sure some people may have captured the video and audio and uploaded it. I don't know. It may well be that you can still buy a ticket, because they were saying it was going to be available to stream for 24 hours. So it might well be available. Paul John Purnell. Have a look. A Bowie celebration, I think it's called. Love the idea of that. Road stories, yeah. Do we think we will be able to gig by then? Yes, going back, well, I set up the YouTube channel because I got to July time last year and had hoped we were going to get out in August, September. I did one gig in September and I did a filmed production in October. But the fact, when we got to July, I didn't think we were going to be coming out of this that quickly. And that was the point that I thought, well, do you know what? I'm going to use my time. In theory, when can we get back out? Well, winter's coming, so we're not going to be gigging outdoors then. The earliest we could gig outdoors would be April. That might not happen. That could, you know, get pushed to May or June. But because I thought, well, I'm going to have all this time over autumn and winter, I could actually put that to use to get this channel up and running, which is what I've done. So that's why you're lumbered with me. But yeah, I mean, look, let's hope we can get out there. Well, I mean, the vaccine should move things along. Once that starts to get it's the snowball effect, you know. So let's fingers crossed and hope we all get out there by late spring, early summer. You've got gigs booked all year. Likewise, you know, last year, let me think, when was it? I've said this to people before, but I did my last gig on February 29th. On March the 13th was the day Italy went into lockdown. And I was sat watching the news at about 6:15 on that Friday. And my phone started pinging as it was announced Italy was going into lockdown. And at that point, I had 104 gigs in my diary for the rest of the year. I had a couple of gigs at Wembley Stadium booked in. And literally, as my phone was pinging, gigs were being cancelled. And I realized at that point, right, okay, we've got trouble here. And a lot of my work from last year has been rescheduled into this year, and now some of that is going. All we can do is just hope, it's we'll get back out there. It's just a question of when. But I think once the weather improves and the vaccine is rolling out, I think, but let's hope it suddenly snowballs and becomes sort of quite a quick process. But I think we'll be living with this virus for a long time. But if people behave themselves and stop making stupid decisions and think about the wider scope of who's affected by your actions, hopefully we might get out of this a bit quicker. Jason Rice, I'm a newbie live bass player. I've always been on keyboards, so learning how to set up a bass for live work would be a superb help. Well, I've got a couple of workshop videos already on the channel. One is about applying linseed oil to a rosewood fingerboard. That doesn't necessarily apply to you getting out and playing. But there's also one on conditioning a fingerboard and changing strings and what have you. Send me a message, Jason, via any of the social media platforms. Send me a message on what you would like to see and what would help you. And I will storyboard that up into a video and I'll get it produced. And we'll get that up, because it won't just be you that would be helpful for. I'm sure a lot of people will find that useful. So tell me what you need to know and what you would find useful, and I'll put it together for you. You often lose a G string. You're not the only one. I snapped many a G string in my time, and it's not always the string's fault. It can be. I presume you've put 40 there. I'm presuming that's the gauge you're talking about. It's often on the saddle, the bridge saddle, that the string passes over. You may find a rough piece of metal. Depends on the bridge, depends what it's made of and what they're built like. There's so many different bass bridges, but you may find there's a rough piece of metal, in which case that just needs to be kind of sanded down. Sometimes it can be because you haven't stretched your strings in. And that's something I've said to people for years and years and years. I saw a guy once put a brand new set of strings on before a gig, and he didn't stretch them in. He just put them on and thought that was it. And the strings went gradually out of tune while he's doing the gig. And he must have got about 4 songs in and his G string snapped. And I said to him, did you not stretch them in? He went, what's that? He didn't know. I've never had a G string snap from being stretched in. I've had G string snap from them being old strings, and also had it with the bridge saddles having a sharp piece of metal. But there's a few ways around that. So again, message me on social media and we can go through what's going on. Tell me what bass you've got, and you'll send me a picture and I'll take a look at it. Do you ever use bass synth pedals? Certainly do. When someone needs me to use one, I've got a couple. They tend to be a little overkill for a lot of things, and if you don't use them wisely, or at least check out your sounds in advance, they can cause sound men no ends of problems, especially with bass end if they're sub units. We used to have a venue here in London called the Roadhouse, and they had so many sub bass problems because there was huge subs under the stage. They got round it eventually, and some of the finest sound men in the UK worked there, and they nailed it. But for years, going like in the 1990s and 2000s, they used to have so many problems, and synth bass pedals would cause no end of grief. And they just say there's so much bass end, you might as well get rid of it because we can't hear anything else. But again, there's lots of different synth bass pedals out there, and they all do similar things, but they all do slightly different things. So are you after a specific sound? If you can name a song or an artist or a bass sound that you're after, sometimes you need to use a combination of pedals to get a certain bass synth sound. You live in the 80s. There's nothing wrong with that, sir. Nothing wrong with that. yes, I do have a full-time job with this channel. I have, up until Christmas, I had 5 days off in 5 months, and that's why I took a little break over Christmas to recharge the batteries. I grabbed four days off, and but we're back in full flow now. So on with the videos. I'm just going to grab a quick drink here. What is my favorite bass I've ever owned? I've still got it. It's here. Well, I have several basses, well, quite a few actually. I wouldn't say I've got one definite favorite. I love lots of them for different reasons, but the one that I go to more often than not is this, and that's my Status Graphite Empathy 4-string. It's 1998 model. It has Sims LEDs in it. And I call this the battering ram because I've never had a situation playing with any band, and I've decked for lots of bands and played in quite a few, and I've never had a problem dealing with a band mix with that bass. It always cuts through, and the VIDIQ on it is outstanding. But it doesn't sound typically like a Status. The Empathy range were replaced. Well, they replaced the Series 2 in the tail end of 1990, and they were the top of the range Status bass through until about 2001, when the Series 2 Classic came back in. So basically the three basses are very similar lineage, but the names obviously changed, the EQ changed, and the number of laminates changed. But the Empathy was a model that Mark King was flying the flag for in the early 90s, and by the mid-90s Britpop had taken off, and I played loads of Empathies at the Bass Centre through the 90s and 2000s. I bought this one in 2002, brand new, and it didn't sound anything like any of the Empathies I'd ever played, and it was really confusing because I was expecting a lot more twang and slappy tones, and it had more of a rounded tone, but with a real mid-bark that was really pronounced, and I couldn't get my head around it. And about a year later I saw Rob Green, and I said, I've got this Empathy, it doesn't sound like any other Empathies. He said, do you know what year it is? And I said, yes, a 98. He said, we changed the EQ because Britpop was really popular and people were no longer wanting bass exotica. They wanted old school Fenders and Gibsons. They had to change the EQ sound on the Empathies. So this Empathy has a fuller, less slappy sound, although it does have great slap sounds. But it just works great, and I've taken it abroad. It's played in 46-degree heat in Israel, and it's played in sub-zero temperatures all over the world, and the neck never moves. It's great. It behaves itself. You know, I rarely have to set it up. I think I tweaked it once in the summer last year, and before that I hadn't had to do any setup work on it since 2007. Yeah. And it's got a lockable bridge, so once it's set up, you lock the bridge. That's it. It's not moving, and the graphite neck is so stable. So yeah, that's one of my main go-tos. Another one would be, oh goodness, would be my GB Rumour 4-string, which was made for me by Bernie Goodfellow. There's a gunshot wound on the back. It's not really; it's a knot in the wood. And there's Bernie's signature, all upside down because we're on a camera. And that's fabulous as well. That was made to my spec by Mr. Goodfellow. So yes, but I have a whole load of different basses here, and I like different ones for different jobs, but they all sound different, they all do different things, they all get used. So there we go. Let's have a look here. Great, yeah. Who are you due to be playing at Wembley Stadium with? Sorry, I've missed the boat. It was with a Queen tribute. We were supposed to be playing for the first semi-final and the final of Euro 2020. And the contract was due to be signed literally the week before we went into lockdown. And then the client held off the contract, and I'm hoping Euro 2021 will happen, and the client will come back and want to book that band. But yeah, you spend your whole life dreaming of playing at Wembley Stadium, get the opportunity, and it doesn't come through. So fingers crossed for this year. We'll see if it happens. I'm still, this is from James Randall, I'm still gagging to see Pearl Jam in Hyde Park. Keeps getting cancelled. Yeah, everything's getting cancelled. Yeah, there's so many big tours, lots of farewell tours that are booked, and you're thinking, I'm not sure the performers will come back. You just don't know. Let's hope everything sort of gets sorted out soon. Yeah. Stretching strings, Jason. Yeah, told you I was a newbie. What is that all about? Okay, I'll show you. I'll do a demo. Let's just pick a bass. Doesn't matter, does it? Okay, right. So you got a bass. You've put the strings on. And then what you do, there's various ways of doing this. You can either fret a string and then pull, or not fret a string at all and pull it. And so all you're doing is pulling the string away from the fingerboard. Do it across the whole length of the string in various places, and it will go out of tune. So you tune the string back up, you do it again, and eventually you'll get to a point where the string doesn't go out of tune. So if you do that for each string, and when you first put them on, don't worry that you're going to break them. You're not. You know, strings they're designed to take a whole load of grief. So you just stretch them. And yeah, at the point that they stop going out of tune, off you go. But I've often stretched my strings before every gig, just to warm the strings up. And also, if you're doing things like weddings in marquees or outdoor gigs, temperature plays a huge part in the neck and the guitar and the strings. They're metal. You know, if it's cold, they expand and contract like every other sort of metal object. And you want your bass warmed up. Nothing worse than doing a gig outdoors and it's cold and your strings go out of tune because you haven't stretched them up. Once you start playing, obviously the strings warm up, tuning changes. So that's why you stretch them in. There we go. So that's why you stretch your strings in. Yeah, the States bass is gorgeous. Thank you very much. Yeah, the GB is awesome. Yeah, can't knock either of those manufacturers. You know, we build some great gear here in the UK. Over my shoulder, there's an Alembic there, and I've got the Alembic top on. So, but you know, there's so much great gear out there. Good evening, Mike. Phil Mann's here, ladies and gents, from With Bass in Mind. Fabulous site, YouTube channel, social media platforms. The man's a bass playing monster. Bass lessons, the lot. I've known Phil nearly 20 years. So thank you for attending, sir. Do you suffer with stiff fingers when playing in the cold? Yeah, have done. Warm your hands up. You know, during winter months, make sure you've got some gloves with you. And actually, it used to be during December, you do lots of outdoor gigs on stages, promotional gigs and corporate events. And if you know you're going to be doing lots of those, just keep a pair of woolen gloves in your gig bag. But yeah, I mean, always warm my hands up before gig anyway, you know. It's no different to being an athlete. This is something we've covered in the mag many times, you know. Stretch your shoulders, your arms, your muscles, elbows, wrists, a lot. I've done gigs cold where I haven't warmed up and suddenly, you know, muscles feel tight and fingers gone sore. You know, just warm yourself up. Pre-gig prep. And once you get into the habit of doing it, you start doing it as a matter of course. So you know, these are all little things you just pick up over time. I mean, I used to have one of these sponge ball in my bag, just to warm the fingers up, and then, you know, the hand is a pivot, and your various knuckle points, they're all pivots as well. It helps. It might help. You know, I've had this chat with Billy Sheehan. You know, you can spend hours warming up before a gig and have a dreadful gig. You can have a gig where you warmed up not at all, and it'll be the best gig you've ever played. There's no hard and fast rules, but you might as well give yourself the best chance of having a good gig. So you can have that. There are, I'm trying to see, I used to have one of those finger exercises, and yet I've never taken it out on a gig with me. So that probably shows how useful that was. But yeah, the other thing, you know, get an elastic band, tie it around your fingers, and then, you know, the band is trying to pull your fingers back so that there's resistance, you know, all that kind of thing. There's nothing wrong with all that. It all helps. Let's have a look. What else we got here? Buster's Bass Guitars. Hello, Buster's Bass Guitars. Thank you for joining us. Guns N' Roses was supposed to be playing Glasgow, July 2020. Put off till July 2021, and that might not be happening. This is it. The only thing I'm saying that I think I might be out in April or around that time is the fact I'm not Guns N' Roses. So there are gigs going on. You know, promoters are trying to put things on lower down the levels. I last did an outdoor gig in September with an Oasis tribute. So there are people trying to do stuff, but the big names, they can't really be going out doing their thing. But those of us on a lower footing, we might. Hope so. Yes, Stacey, you need to check out With Bass in Mind. Recommendations for Jason. Those hand warmer packs you expose to the air are great. There you go. See, this is what this is all about. Help each other out. Had some finger fatigue when playing keys live too. Alcohol seems to help. I tell you, alcohol covers a multitude of sins. But it's warming up. It's even during the summer, you know, it's warm temperatures, but just get the fingers moving. And you know, I said this before, is that bass is very physical instrument, and the strings, you know, if you're running 4505s, it's like playing washing lines. So you know, get yourself conditioned and warm up. You know, 20 minutes before you're going on, just start shaking your arms, your elbows, shoulders, the lot. It all helps. Let's have a look here. Yeah, Duran and Sheik's. Well, Duran and Sheik playing at Hyde Park again. We'll see if that happens. It's July. Yeah, we might. Hope so. Let's see who we've got on. See if there's anyone I haven't mentioned. Participants. It looks like a small list, but it's saying there's a lot more on my phone. So maybe people are coming and going. I'm fine with that. I'll grab a quick drink while you guys come up with some questions. Alcohol makes you think you are playing well. Well, that's very true. I've known some fabulous musicians who are great when they're sober and absolutely dreadful when they're slightly drunk. So yes, moderation in all things. Stacey, I've tried flat wounds for the first time ever and have to say I've missed out. Flat wounds are fabulous on certain basses, you know, not something I would use all the time on all my basses, but for certain sounds and for certain basses, they work great. I've been a big advocate for a long time that you should try different strings on different basses at every opportunity you get, because it's very easy to stick to one brand or one type or one gauge or one material. When I say material, I mean nickel, steel, tape wounds. And sometimes it can be a totally liberating surprise. You put something on, you think, oh, well, this isn't going to sound very good. You put them on, and suddenly that bass takes on a whole new character, a whole new life. And it's funny because I can put strings on my Status Empathy, and that bass will do over 30 gigs, and those strings will still sound great. Yeah, I can put the same brand of string on, say, a Stingray or Precision or a Jazz, and they're dead after about 7 or 8 gigs. There is definitely a correlation between the speaking length of the string and the points of contact, and then the point further on that the string goes around a tuner or a machine head. And I've had it with all sorts of jazzes, It's not to do with the make, it's to do with the distance between the anchoring point of the string, the ball end, and where it connects with the tuner. And for some of them, they just go dead a whole lot quicker. Yet the same string on my empathy, because the point, say the G string, is a lot closer to the nut than it is on a Fender or other styles of bass, those strings still sound reasonably bright for a whole lot longer. So, you know, go figure. Physics, you can't rewrite physics, but certainly if you get an opportunity or have the money to be able to experiment with strings, brands, gauges, and materials, do it. Because I did it about 6 years ago. Spent a load of my own money buying different brands, and I was in the process of changing the brand of string I was using. And I thought it was about time I did some investigation, and I did. And I used, oh God, I dread to think, a lot of different strings across like 10 of my basses. And from that, I made an educated decision. But it was amazing how some basses I've kind of written off as, never seemed to get on with that bass, didn't sound particularly good. Changed the string, changed the material, the gauge, and suddenly it was a whole different bass. And I suddenly thought, wow, I could use that for that band, or that would sound good in that project. So never stick to just one string. Let's have a look what we got here. Yes, this is all great help. Seriously, I've been in a village since late last year, so all of this is really helping, mate. Anything I can help you with, Jason, any questions or what have you, just fire them off either now or on social media. Just send me messages, and if I can help you, I will. It's no problem. And just so you've got an idea what I do or what I've done, I've been playing bass for 33 years. This will be my 26th year as a working professional musician. I've done over 4,000 gigs. I've written for Bass Guitar Magazine for 16 years. I've written for Bass Player Magazine for 3. So I'm hoping that somewhere along that journey, I've picked up some information. If I can impart that to you and it helps, I'm more than happy to do so. Let's have a look. Who do I take inspiration from? Wow. If we're talking musicians, I mean, there's just so many. I mean, my two big heroes when I was growing up, my two big bands were Queen and Duran Duran. So for me, it was a tale of two Johns. So it's John Taylor and John Deacon. And but my ear was turned to bass playing in about 77, 78, because my mum used to play loads of disco music, and obviously it was on the radio, it was on the telly. And Chic, Earth, Wind and Fire always caught my ear, and Queen was already on my radar anyway. And then when Duran Duran came along, and obviously John Taylor took a lot of his inspiration from Chic and disco stuff, that was kind of it for me. That kind of laid my blueprint. I didn't really get into rock stuff. Obviously Queen were originally a rock band, but when I say rock stuff, I'm talking things like Billy Sheehan and Chris Squire and John Entwistle and kind of people like that. Didn't get into those guys until around 85, 86, 87. And then once I became a bass player, I was already into level 42, but Mark King wasn't my inspiration for being a bass player. It was John Taylor and John Deacon did that. But I was already a huge level 42 fan. Never thought I could get to that level of playing like Mark does. But and then once you pick up bass and take that on as your instrument, there are so many great bass players out there. And it is an education. You discover people as you go along, and the people that you find inspiring were inspired by these people. So you start to, I'd heard of Sly and the Family Stone. I didn't know who Larry Graham was. So then it was like, right, okay, let's start investigating what he's done. So John Taylor, John Deacon, Mark King, Billy Sheehan, Marcus Miller, Chris Squire, John Entwistle, although I've never been a huge Who fan, but I can appreciate what Entwistle brought to the table. Jack Bruce, Larry Graham, just these are great bass players. And and I always get inspiration from them. It's I'm really enjoying at the moment the Stanley Clarke series, Bass Nation, and he's got Vadim White from Earth, Wind and Fire, and listen to Vadim wax lyrical about various things. It's like, great, how could you not learn from what these guys can offer to you. So yeah. So I mean, God, goodness. I mean, I've been very fortunate with my work for the Bass Mag and having done the London bass guitar shows that I've met lots of these people who inspire me. So, you know, people like Nathan East and Bigiti Kamalu. Chris Childs, huge inspiration to me. I have to say, and I will include Thunder's live album from '97, which was released in 1998, is to me one of the finest examples of a jazz bass being used in rock music. And Chris had only been in the band for a year. I mean, it's quite shocking how good. I mean, he's a great player anyway, but his bass tone on that album is just phenomenal. So the Thunder Live album will be getting an Essential Bass Series bass album episode to itself at some point. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. No problem. Good evening. Enjoy yourself, Jason. You don't look old enough. Oh, you're too kind. If only you knew. Paul John Pennell. I want to try GHS nickel balance tension. Can't seem to find them in the UK. Well, I guess for something like that, go to GHS's distributor, and I can't remember who they are. But have a look at Strings Direct. Have a look at try Bass Direct. I think they've got some GHS. Otherwise, maybe somewhere like THOMANN. But the problem you're going to have now because of Brexit is getting stuff in from the EU might be trickier than it was before. I can't check while I'm doing this, but send me a message via social media and I will try and find for you who the UK distributor is. Stacey, yes, Duran led to Roxy Music, Robert Palmer, Japan. Yeah, love to connect with those dots. Exactly. You know, I probably wouldn't have discovered Mick Karn, although I was very aware of Japan in the 80s. But a couple of their albums, once I knew who Mick Karn was, I sort of went backwards and traced the lineage there. And Robert Palmer, I mean, fabulous. James Rand, yeah, fine. I want to share some thoughts about Squire basses, or do I? Yeah. Yes. 4 Low, whoever you are, I don't know because 4 Low doesn't tell me who you are, but yes, I will. So Squires can be, let's think, they can be hit and miss. And obviously older Squires, we all know the vintage ones from the 80s are very, very good. More recently, I've reviewed some Squires that have been dreadful and sloppy. And then again, and I'll recount the story, I said it in my first live chat 3 weeks ago. I reviewed a Squire classic 60s, 60s classic vibe jazz, and it's in Bass Guitar Magazine and Bass Player. So that was August 2019. So I think that was in late 2019, early 2020 issues. I can't remember which one. And it's a blue one with a tortoiseshell scratch plate, and the bass was about £341. So it's a Squire Jazz, no bells and whistles, just a Squire Jazz. In that shop, they also had hundreds of other basses, loads of jazz basses, loads of custom jazz basses, some jazz basses over £3,000. This Squire is £341. It, in my opinion, for what that's worth, it played considerably better and sounded a whole lot better than the £3,000 models. Now, I can't say you'll pick up another model out of another box and it'll be the same, because unfortunately some Squires are like that. Not all of them are the same. The one I tried was beyond belief. I perhaps should have bought it, but I didn't. I had other things to buy at the time. But that particular Squire was outstanding. I always stand by, and I've said it to anyone that asks me, and I said it in reviews, and I'll say it again. You have to take every single bass on its own merits, because you could have 10 examples of the same bass off the same production line, and they won't all sound the same. I visited Warwick's facility in Germany 4 years ago, and they had 2 basses made identically from wood from the same tree, with the same hardware, exactly the same pickups and same electronics. Everything was exactly the same, other than the wood being made from exactly the same block. Obviously, you can't physically do it. They then had those bases hooked up to systems, and on the screen it would show you what the sound waves were coming off those bases. They weren't the same. So there you've got two models from the same company in the same factory, with everything is the same except the timbre, and they don't sound the same. So my advice to anyone out there checking out a bass is, if you find a model you like and you find it, or you find an example of it and it doesn't sound how you want it to sound, don't write it off. It could just be that example of that model isn't the way you want it to sound. You could pick up another two and one of them is the one you're looking for. So never write something off, but by the same token, don't assume that two models of the same bass are going to be the same. They're not. And even if they're custom builds, they're not being made from the same bit of wood. And then you start getting into things like tolerances and electronic detail. And either way, I've been there at Warwick's facility and those two basses were not the same. So, you know, back to your original question, take every Squire that you try or are looking to audition on its own merits. If it doesn't sound right, don't write that model off. You just need to find another example. Lecture finished. Okay. Yeah, cheers, Jason. Thank you. Have a good evening. Hi from Greece. Oh, well, there we go. Hi. Okay, did a little research. GHS Strings are dealt with by Strings and Things, which are also the company that deal with all the Ernie Ball Music Man stuff. There you go. Paul John Purnell, you need to get on the Strings and Things. They're based down in Worthing on the south coast, just a bit further along from Brighton. And yeah, I mean, by all means, try out the GHS. I'm going to throw rotor sound into the mix because that's what I use. Nickel balance tension. So I guess they're particular gauge sizes, or is it the material, or is it even the wire inside? Is it the core that's balanced? I don't know. I haven't looked into that set. Obviously with nickels, you're going to get a slightly softer attack, slightly softer sound than you'll get with steels. They'll be less harsh. You may find they last a little longer. You'll get a warmer sound either way. Big thanks for the answer. My pleasure. That's what I'm here for. I've got a couple of minutes left, but if you guys want me to carry on talking, if you've got some other questions, I'm happy to chuck another 10-15 minutes on here. It's fine. I'm gonna grab a quick drink because I'm getting a little hoarse. I'm not talking about yeah. Phil, if you're there, I'm waiting on a With Bass in Mind mug. I assume there's one in the post. You know the address. And yeah, so so what have we got coming up? So this week I've got some pedal reviews going up over the next couple of days. I then want to get the Chris Childs interview up very shortly, and let me think, then it's going to be bass reviews. It's going to be an absolute flurry of bass reviews from about the middle of this week. So if you're waiting on the Alembic review and the Music Man review, and there's going to be some Status reviews, a couple of other GBs, they're coming. They're all here ready to go. It's just I've had other things that have taken priority to get out on the channel. I have Ernie Ball Cobalts never taken out the packet. Well, that's because you're not using the basses enough, madam. I'm waiting on a Trace Elliott amp, mate. Well, aren't we all? I mean, I had to buy mine. But the combo, I mean, I can put you in touch with the people. You've just bought a new amp. You've got the Ashdown one for Christmas. I was about to say you can have too many amps, but you can't because I've got about 6 or 7. So we'll stop that one there. Paul John Purnell, yeah, Strings and Things, fabulous guys to deal with. You may find because the distributors, they don't sell directly, but they'll certainly put you in touch with a retailer. I think you're going to be looking at maybe Bass Direct or Strings Direct, or you might get GHS at the Gallery in Camden. The other option would be somewhere like PMT, but I don't know what strings they're covering at the moment. You're more than welcome, Phil. If you want to borrow my Trace Elliott Elf to try it out, you're more than welcome. It sits in the gig bag permanently. It goes on every gig because it is just so small. Trying to think which bass gig bag it's in. It fits in the back pocket. That's the deal clincher for me. Yeah. I collect mugs. Can I have one, please? I think he'll ask you to pay for one. I can't see frivolous mug giving away happening. Keep an eye on Phil's site with bass in mind. I'm sure he'll run some competitions with the mugs. Competition's always good. We like competitions. So yes, a big flurry of bass reviews going up later this week. Pedals, trying to think, interviews in the pipeline. What we've got coming up? I'll get the Chris Childs one up, and then there will be some of the older vintage ones to go. I've got some more Nathan Easter, some more Mark King, some more Billy Sheehan to go. Got Paul Turner from Jamiroquai. That's going to go up at some point. Trying to get Neil Fairclough pinned down for another interview. Trying to think. Nathan East possibly. He's such a busy guy. We just need to try and correlate diaries. Still waiting for Lee Sklar to give me his day and time. If you're watching, Lee, we keep saying we're going to do it. We've been at this since October, you know. So yeah, a new one with Lee, because he's got a lot to talk about since we last did an interview in 2016. Mr. Sklar's been very busy, so we need a big catch up there. That could be a Leviathanic interview. That could be over an hour, I think. I collect mugs. Yes. Paul Turner. Yeah. Paul Turner's interview was great. That was 2015. 6 years ago. Goodness. I love my Trace Elliott Series 6 GP12. Well, fabulous amp there, Paul. You know, the older Trace stuff before the comeback in the mid 2000s, the older stuff was great. There was a patch towards the end where it wasn't quite as good, you know, but that stuff's legendary. Just, it weighs a ton. Just, I know a lot of people now are buying up the old vintage cabs and stuff. Well, I'm glad it's your back, not mine. I'd look after my back in my old age. Just giving away a load of Ernie Ball materials. Yes, sir. So no freebie mugs for now, but you can order them through my Facebook page. Guys, head over to Phil's page later and buy some mugs from him. I'm waiting for the I think Phil is cool scarf. You need to get the scarf in. And in time for Christmas next year, you need to do the Santa hats, you know. I bought TC Electronics BH250 instead of the Elf. I'm hoping I win the competition. Best of luck to you. You know, let's have a look at the time. People, you have 3 hours and 58 minutes to enter the competition if you haven't already. So you're watching this on the channel. There is a video, competition video, win a Trace Elliott 1x10 Elf combo. It finishes at 23:59 UK time tonight. You've now got 3 hours and 57 minutes. TC Electronics, yep, great company. You know, the BH250, lovely small bass amp, very good. Lee just played with one of my bosses, Albert Lee. I mean, he just plays with everyone, doesn't he? I mean, just, the man's a legendary player. I mean, I spoke to him. In fact, the first interview I did with him was by email. And I remember him saying, he said, I've just come home from a session for someone's garage band. He said, I literally went down to their garage, recorded, and that's what's going on their album. He said, but I'd rather be working than not. And this was 2014. So, and this is, you know, the guy's in senior years, but just still a serious player. Maybe you can get his Basset Hounds to chime in well, you know, with a song in their heart. If you don't know what I'm referring to, if you go onto Facebook and search Lee Sklar's videos, he recorded his previous 2 Basset Hound dogs singing. Yeah, turn the volume down and put headphones on. Look out for the release. Yeah. Oh, you're with Mark. Good day tomorrow. Excellent. Splendid. Send him my best. Tell him he needs to be sending some stuff over for review. He keeps saying he's going to send some, and then I forget to nudge him to send it. And yeah, but anyway, say hello for me. It's 4x10 combo, weighs a ton. Yeah. in a flight case with casters. That's great. You've still got to get it in and out of the vehicles, unless it's going up a ramp. And I can remember the first pro band I joined in 1995, the outgoing bass player had a Trace 4x10 combo on casters. It weighed an absolute ton. No one ever wanted to help him move it, and I could understand why, because not only were the 4x10 Trace cabs huge and heavy, the heads were as well. So you've got both of them in one unit. Good luck with that. Get the hospital bed booked, the chiropractor on order. Just done the Ashdown review for BP. Tone Pocket, excellent. And the Ant, yeah, lovely. Look forward to it, sir. Great. Yeah, be good. We haven't had any Ashdown stuff in for review for a long while, so that'd be great. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I'll carry on for another 5-10 minutes if you're happy to chat. But thank you, everyone, for attending. And as with the last chat, loads of people watched after it was uploaded. So, you know, thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for all the subs and subscriptions. You know, all you subscribers pushed me over the 1,000 boundary. So, you know, it took 5 months to get 550 subscribers, and it took about 3 weeks to get another 800-900. So thank you very much. It's very much appreciated. And as I said in the last chat, my idea for this channel is it will carry on for years and years and years. And it's a long-term project for me. This isn't just a, you know, a throwaway thing. I'm hoping this channel can go on for a long time. So, you know, I'm very happy for your input. If you've got any suggestions or anything you'd like to see reviewed, or people you'd like to see interviewed, or there's anything that you would actually like some information on, if I can help, and I'll do videos, and we'll, you know, make the live chat a regular thing. I'm happy to do that. What's the what's the alternative for that tone? Well, no, quite. I mean, the old Trace stuff has a tone of its own. That's what made it so legendary, and it was groundbreaking when it came out. But it was what it was, and the fact that when Trace Elliot came back in the mid-2000s, it wasn't the same tone. But again, you can't override physics. So as much as people say, oh, this amp does this and it's that loud, and you know, the sound of the cabinet, the size of the cabinet, the dimensions, the acoustic properties of the cabinet will always have an effect. Now, I could go into a long story about Hartkey transporter cabinets, which were very lightweight. And the reason they were lightweight was they were made with lightweight timber. But that also meant you couldn't pump them as hard as a Hartkey XL cabinet. And when transporters first came out, people thought you could throw loads of bass end at them. What they didn't realize was that timber couldn't handle extreme bass frequencies, so speaker drivers would pop very quickly. So the Trace 4x10s were heavy and big, and that's what contributed to their sound. Once the materials changed and they were made lighter, the sound was going to be different. I don't necessarily think you can replicate that Trace sound. It was such a signature sound, and the amps and the cabinets were so well tuned to each other that if you want that, you've kind of got to have it. And let's be fair, no one has come up with anything that sounded like that Trace gear of that time. But by the same token, SWR gear had its own sound. Ashdown has its own sound. Mesa Boogie has its own sound. All of these different makes have their own thing. You can't buy something amplification wise to make it sound like another amplifier and cabinet. You can do modeling and that will work. I'm never convinced it's totally a copy, but you know, if it comes down to that, means I can travel on a plane lightweight and I don't need to carry amps and stuff with me, that's gonna solve that problem. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, my old cabs used to weigh a ton. Yeah, new cabs now lightweight. Yeah. How do you feel about the tonality changes, if there are any? There are tonality changes, because when I went from EBS Pro line, which were the heavy ones, to the Neos, you could hear the difference immediately. You, like me, do similar kinds of gigs, and it comes down to, in a lot of the gigs we do, can people hear the difference between the cabs? Probably not. We can because we're stood in front of them, but people out front don't, because and if the gig is PA reinforced, they're hearing the PA, not necessarily on stage sound. If it's a gig where we're not running through the PA and only vocals and backing tracks are going through, they're not, obviously, yes, our amps and our cabs will have a bigger effect on what the audience are hearing. Personally, if I was recording, I'd probably use the heavier stuff, the older cabs. Gigging, I'll use the light stuff every day because it's my back, and I ripped my the nerves in my lower back in 2005 putting a combo back into a box that I'd reviewed, and after that point it's Neos all the way. But I've still got the heavy stuff here. I just choose not to be lugging that in and out of a car and at gigs, because it's no. I want to be in this for the long haul, you know. I don't want to be crippled by the time I'm 55. But there are tonality changes, you know it and I know it, so we can't dress those changes up. It's but Neo cabs just make things. I love the fact I can carry bass cabs with one hand and I'm not in pain. Thank you, Stace. Thank you for that. Yeah, Matt, heavy cabs, they will kill you. I mean, I let's think. So when I turned pro, I had Hartke 4x10 XL cabs. My next rig after that was EBS Pro lines. Those were 410s, which I've still got, and they weighed a ton. And my point of moving from those to Neos was I got a regular gig in town, which was every Thursday and Friday, and I had to walk 200 to 300 meters with EBS 4x10 Pro line cabs. And after a month, my back was killing me. And that was just on those gigs, let alone the weekend gigs. And we were booked in at that venue every Thursday and Friday for a whole year. So I knew that money was kind of going to come through. And I thought, my back, I deserve to help my back out here. So I went and bought a EBS Neo 212, and I bought a 210. And the 212 was basically great for every gig, but having the extra 210 just gave a bit more punch, clarity, and some extra projection. And I didn't look back. But if you put both rig, if I had a 4x10 or even a 212 Pro line, I think they did one, and a 210, you will hear the difference. But again, you have to weigh up. If you're the one carrying it in and out of cars and vehicles and loading it into gigs, it's your back that's taking the toll. I wish I'd had Neo gear from the start. It would have made things a whole lot easier. Let's see what else we got here. I think I've got to the bottom of your questions, guys. Okay, I will give you 30 seconds to come up with any other questions, and after that I will bid you good evening. But we'll do this again. Let's do it at 2,000 subscribers, shall we? You've got, let's think, 1.34. We've got about 650 to go. So that might take a little longer. But the fact you guys gave me just under 900 subscribers in just over, in just over 3 weeks. Yeah. Thank you. I can't say thank you enough, but you know, it's a big deal, because it rocketed. And especially my Facebook friends, who I basically messaged a lot of them and asked for their support, and they came through. So thank you. So this week, pedal reviews, Chris Child's interview, bass reviews. And that will get us through to about this time next week, and then we'll see where we are. But I hope you're all safe and well out there. Look after yourselves. Don't make stupid decisions and fall foul of this virus. You know, we're so close to the goal. You know, let's get there. Let's all get there together, and don't make silly mistakes now. Trying to think what else I have to tell you. Some essential bass albums. What's coming up? A Beatles masterpiece. Mr. Big's Finest, classic David Bowie. I'm trying to think what else. A classic from Fleetwood Mac, but you'll know what that is. And I've got a couple of Prince essential bass albums, and I'm trying to decide which one I'm going to go with first. So we've got some Beatles content, some Mr. Big, Billy Sheehan content, Fleetwood Mac, David Bowie, and Prince. It's not a bad lineup, is it? And then soon I will start a whole new line of essential bass albums that I haven't even written scripts for. So there's going to be some research going on over the next week or two. Let's see, what else have we got here? I've just realized that With Bass in Mind works with Scott's Bass Lessons. Yes, that's Phil Mann. He is the man. The man is Phil Mann. So yeah, if you've watched Scott's Bass Lessons, you will have come across Phil's content on there. Yes, Stacey. Yeah, great albums, you know. You're a Scott's Bass Lesson member. I've watched your seminar. There you go. It's a With Bass in Mind loving. I wish if I could give my viewers over to you, Phil, I would. But you'll have to advertise your own live chat. Yeah. So yeah. So pedals wise, I've got a load ready to go. It's just which order I go in. So there's some more Flatley pedals to come up. There's a couple of Boss units, some EBS units. I think then I've got a couple of I've got a thing like an Akai UB1 and a Dan Electro Fab Tone, which is a fuzz pedal. I've got a couple of Ashdown pedals to go in. So there's plenty coming up, guys. So keep watching the channel. Send me your comments, good, bad, or otherwise, and keep hitting that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber. It all counts. And enjoy your bass playing while we're in downtime. Make the most of it, because I think once the world gets back into some sort of normal mode, if you're busy, your bass time might be limited. So I'll just catch up here. I really like Phil's page. Fabulous. Currently working on Bowie's Greatest Hits book from Playbase. Excellent. Some great David Bowie bass lines. I was very lucky to have a Skype interview with Gail Ann Dorsey back in April, and she's fabulous. Some great insight there. And I think Bowie always had great bass players, but he knew what he wanted from a bass player, very much defined. He would never say, "Oh, just do what you want." He knew where he wanted the bass to go and how he wanted it to sit in an arrangement. You just need to listen to the songs, but there's so many prominent Bowie bass lines. Can't go wrong with that. Okay, guys, I'm gonna shut up shop for the evening. Thank you very much for attending. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for watching, and look forward to doing this again. If you have ideas or anything you'd like to see on the channel, message me, and if I can include it, I will do. But there's plenty of content coming, so I hope you enjoy it. And take care of yourself, and we'll catch up again soon. All the best. See ya.